Mahyanativandasyana Sinansanasalakan Sakshunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhakti Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Punyavadi Paskachai Dasatarani Sri Shuka Vacha Ahai Kadat Vatyam Rama Krishna Yo Soyo Paragasu Mahan Ashit Kalpa Kshaye Yata. Sukadev Goswami said, once, while Balaram and Krishna were living in Dwarka, there occurred a great eclipse of the sun, just as if the end of Lord Brahma's day had come. So it seems here that if you have a full eclipse, then it is like the end of Brahma's day. On this occasion, everybody went to Kurukshetra. So, can someone read the purport? It's on the screen.
As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, the words, I have to take this out. Okay. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, the words atha and ekada are commonly used in Sanskrit-like literature to introduce a new topic. Here, they especially indicate that the reunion of the Yadus and Vrishnis at Kurukshetra is being narrated out of chronological sequence. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains in his Vaishnav Toshani commentary that the events of this 82nd chapter occur after Lord Baladev's visit to Braj, chapter 65, and before Maharaj Yudhishthira's Rajasurya sacrifice, chapter 74. This must be so, the Acharya reasons, since during the eclipse at Kurukshetra, all the Kurus, including Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthira, Bhishma, Drona, met in friendship and happily shared the company of Sri Krishna. At the Rajasuya Yajna, on the other hand, Duryodhana's jealousy against the Pandavas became irrevocably inflamed. Soon after this, Duryodhana challenged Yudhishthira and his brothers to the gambling match, in which he cheated them of their kingdom and exiled them to the forest. Thank you, Maharaj. Right after the Pandavas returned from exile, the great battle of Kurukshetra took place, during which Bhishma and Drona were killed. So it is not logically possible for the solar eclipse at Kurukshetra to have happened after the Rajasuya sacrifice.
Right. So after Lord Balaram's visit, they all went to Kurukshetra, because everyone was there at Rajasuya sacrifice. So all the Kurus went there, so that it must have happened before the battle of Kurukshetra, even before the Rajasuya sacrifice. It was quite soon after Krishna went to Dwarka that he met the residents of Vrindavan. In the Krishna Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami gives a sequence of events. I don't know if we have Jiva Goswami here. Yeah. First, there is the Kurukshetra eclipse. Then the Rajasuya sacrifice. Then after that, the gambling match. And then after that, the killing of Salva. And then the killing of Dantavraka. Then Lord Balaram went on a tour, and then there was the Battle of Kurukshetra. This is the sequence by Jiva Goswami. From this sequence of events, we can learn that the meeting of Kurukshetra did not happen long after the killing of Kamsa.
Raj, can you say that sequence again, please?
Jiva Goswami? Yeah?
Yes, that one.
First, there is the Kurukshetra eclipse. That's the pastime we are studying now. After that, the Rajasuya sacrifice. Then after that was the gambling match and the exile and so on. And then the killing of Salva. Then the killing of Dantavakra. Then Lord Balaram, who went on a tour. And then the Kurukshetra war. That's what Jiva Goswami says. That text 2. Knowing of this eclipse in advance, O king, many people went to the holy place known as Samanta Panchaka in order to earn pious credits. So normally a moon eclipse is inauspicious, but there is one exception. Lord Chaitanya's appearance was an exception. The moon eclipse there was auspicious. That was no auspicious eclipse. Everyone was chanting Hare Krishna and Lord Chaitanya appeared during that time. So this is interesting, that things that are generally inauspicious, such as a moon eclipse, if we use them for chanting and worship, they become auspicious. Text 3:6. It's a long verse. After ridding the earth of kings, Lord Parasuram, the foremost warriors created huge lakes from the king's blood at Samantaka Panchaka. Although he is never tainted by karmic reactions, Lord Parasuram performed sacrifices there to instruct people in general. Thus he acted like an ordinary person trying to free himself of sins. From all parts of Bharatvarsha, a great number of people now came to that Samantaka Panchaka on pilgrimage. O descendant of Bharat, among those arriving at the holy place were many Vrishnis, just as Gada, Pradyumna, and Samba, hoping to be relieved of their sins. Akura, Vasudev, Ahuka, and other kings also went there. Aniruddha remained in Dwarka with Suchandra, Sukha, and Sarana to guard the city together with Kritavarma, the commanders of their forces. So they stayed behind in Dwarka. Purport: according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Sri Krishna's grandson Aniruddha remained in Dwarka to protect the city, because he is originally Lord Vishnu's manifestation as the guardian of the spiritual planet Svedadvip. So Aniruddha is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, and he stayed to protect Dwarka. So Srila Prabhupada explains in Krishna book. It is stated in the Ishopanishad, Vishnu Tattva cannot be contaminated by any sinful activity. Yet although Lord Parasuram is fully powerful and uncontaminated, in order to exhibit ideal character to atone for his so-called sinful killing of the Kshatriyas, that he performed great sacrifices at Samanta Panchaka. By his example, Lord Parshuram established that the killing act, although sometimes necessary, is not good. Lord Parshuram considered himself culpable for the sinful killing of the Kshatriyas. Therefore, how much more culpable are we for such abominable, unsanctioned acts? Thus, from time immemorial, the killing of living entities is prohibited all over the world. Today they have wars, but they think that I should do some atonement, but they never think that I should do some atonement for killing. It would never enter their mind or their brain. But Lord Balaram killed Ramaharshan, and he also set the example. He asked the sages what I should do now. How shall I atone for the killing of Ramaharshan? This is our Vishnu Tattva. Even though they have to kill so many people sometimes, still they feel themselves contaminated. Now they are going from Dwarka to Kurukshetra. We will hear about their journey, 7, 8. The mighty Yadavas passed with great majesty along the road. They were attended by their soldiers, who rode on chariots rivaling the airplanes of heaven, on horses moving with a rhythmic gait, and on bellowing elephants as huge as clouds. Also with them were many infantrymen as effulgent as celestial Vidyadharas. The Yadavas were so divinely dressed, being adorned with golden necklaces and flower garlands and wearing fine armor, that as they proceeded along the road with their wives, they seemed to be demigods flying through the sky. So, this is a scene. Imagine hundreds and thousands of people wearing gold necklaces, flower garlands, arms. Arms were passing on the road. Text 9. At Samanta Panchaka, the saintly Yadavas bathed and then observed a fast with careful attention. Afterward, they presented Brahmins with cows bedecked with garments, flower garments, and gold necklaces. That text 10. In accordance with scriptural injunctions, the descendants of Vishnu then bathed once more in Lord Parashuram's lakes and fed first-class Brahmins with sumptuous food. All the while they prayed, may we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna. Krishna no Bprs Viti. So that is a prayer. Yeah, Krishna no Bhaktir Avashtiti. So that's a prayer you can pray during an eclipse. May we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna. This is what they prayed during the eclipse. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
This lake was made by the blood of the slain Kshatriyas, and they are going to bath in this lake. Are they not going to bath on contaminated?
That well,
the lake was the blood of the slain Kshatriyas.
That's a good question. That of course there may have been blood before. That, but I don't think they are now bathing in blood. But anyway, it's an interesting point. I have no answer to that.
I think because it was the incarnation of the Lord that killed, then it became pure. Just like there's that lake at Nrsimhapali,
Yeah.
where Lord Nrsimhadev washes his hands after killing Hiranyakashipu. Then the blood of Hiranyakashipu goes into that lake, but still we take that water on our heads because the Lord touched it.
Interesting. So whatever touched by the Lord is pure, that's for sure. That
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We learned something today. Okay. In according with scriptural injunctions, the descendants of Vishnu then bathed once more in Lord Parasuram's lakes and fed first-class Brahms with sumptuous food. All the way they prayed, may we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna. Text 10. Then with the permission of Lord Krishna, their sole object of worship, the Vishnus, ate breakfast and sat down at their leisure beneath trees that gave cooling shade. So in Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada says that after the eclipse, all the members of the Yadu dynasty again took their baths in the lakes created by Lord Parasuram. It seems they took one bath before and one bath after the eclipse. Then they sumptuously fed the Brahmins with first-class cooked food, all prepared in butter. This is an interesting comment by Srila Prabhupada about what is cooked food and what is raw food. What is cooked food, what is raw food? According to the Vedic system, there are two classes of food. One is called raw food and the other is called cooked food. Raw food does not indicate raw vegetables and raw grains, but boiled in water, whereas cooked food is made in ghee. Chapatis, dal, rice, and ordinary vegetables are called raw foods. So, chapatis, dal, and rice are raw food, as are fruits and salads. But puris, kachoris, samosas, sweet balls, and so on are called cooked foods. All the Brahmins invited on occasion by the members of the Yadu dynasty were fed sumptuously with cooked food, so made with ghee. So, now I want to read another part of Krishna book. First, I will get Krishna book on the screen. Krishna book, 83, 82. Here, that can someone read? Moment, I will first bring it on the screen. Up, share, yeah, there. So can someone read this purport starting with the ceremonial functions, only that paragraph?
The ceremonial functions performed by the members of the Yadu dynasty externally resemble the ritualistic ceremonies performed by the karmis. When a karmi performs some ritualistic ceremony, his ambition is sense gratification. Good position, good wife, good house, good children, good wealth. But the ambition of the members of the Yadu dynasty was different. Their ambition was to offer Krishna perpetual devotion with faith. All the members of the Yadu dynasty were great devotees. As such, After many births of accumulated pious activities, they were given the chance to associate with Lord Krishna. In going to take their baths in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, in observing the regulative principles during the solar eclipse, or in feeding the brahmanas, in all their activities, they simply thought of devotion to Krishna.
Thank
Their ideal
yeah,
worshipable Lord was Krishna and no one else. Sorry, Maharaj, thank you.
great. Thank you. So they had many activities they were doing. They had to fast, they had to feed the Brahmins. But they went to all these activities for Krishna. So how much of our day are we consciously acting for Krishna? The Yadus, they are living with Krishna. So that's, yeah. Anukulyena Krishna, always favorable activities for Krishna, for the pleasure of the Krishna. So they are examples that. So after all this, they sat down at their leisure beneath trees, that gave cool shade. So after eating siesta, and then 12:13, the Yadavis saw that many of the kings had arrived were old friends and relatives. The Mathyas, the Ushinaras, Kausalyas, Vidarbhas, Gos, Srinjayas, Kambojas, Kaikayas, Madras, Kuntis, and the kings of Anarta and Kerala. They also saw many hundreds of other kings, both allies and adversaries. In addition, my dear King Parikshit, they saw their dear friends, Nanda Maharaj, and the coward men and women who had been suffering in anxiety for so long. So, we are in Dwarka Lila. We have been hearing about the anxieties of the residents of Vrindavan. So, how were they living in Vrindavan now? It is said that their houses were unkept and full of cobwebs. They were very skinny. Srila Prabhupada said they are perpetually crying. So this means they have doing that for many years. We are now approximately 25 years after Krishna left. 25 years since he moved to Dwarka. It's a long time. They maintained only their lives because Krishna promised, I will come back. Now they are seeing Krishna. That's Nanda Maharaj and the coward men and women were suffering anxiety for so long. Text 14. As the great joy of seeing one another made the lotuses of their hearts and faces bloom with fresh beauty, the men embraced one another enthusiastically. With tears pouring from their eyes, the hair on their bodies standing on end, and their voices choked up, they all felt intense bliss. So, this is not with Krishna, this is with the Vaishnavas. Of course, they are seeing them as family members. Text 15. The women glanced at one another with pure smiles of loving friendship. And when they embraced, their breasts, smeared with saffron paste, pressed against one another as their eyes filled with tears of affection. 16. They all then offered obeisances to their elders and received respect in turn from their younger relatives. After inquiring from one another about the comfort of their trip and their well-being, they proceeded to talk about Krishna. So these are the activities of the Vaishnavas. Can someone read the purport of 16, please?
These are the special dealing of Vaishnavas. Even these are the special dealing of Vaishnavas. Even the family entanglement that deluded ordinary conditioned soul are no in comparisons for those who, as families members, are all pure devotee of the Lord. Impersonality have no capacity for appreciating this intimate dealing, since there is philosophy condemns as illusionary any kind of personal emotion existence. When followers of impersonalities pretend to understand the loving relationship of Krishna and his devotee, they only create havoc for themselves and whoever listen to them.
So, thank you, Mother Purnamans. So the impersonalists have not only no capacity for appreciating what the people, but their thinking is complete Maya. So what are the people that are referred here to? This is referring this purport to the Mayavadis, who do Bhagavad Saptas, and then they go and break the four regulative principles because they think they are Krishna. So, in Krishna book, let's see if we find it. As Srila Prabhupada says, here. I can't see everything. Anyway, yeah, we'll have to move it. Due to such heart-embracing torrents of tears glided down from their cheeks, the juniors were offering obeisances to the elders, and the elders were offering their blessings to the juniors. They thus welcomed one another and asked one after another's welfare. Ultimately, however, all their talk was only of Krishna. All the neighbors and relatives were connected with Lord Krishna's pastimes in this world, and as such, Krishna was the center of their activities. Whatever activities they performed, social, political, religious, or conventional, were transcendental. So imagine that you are one of them, you are there. Then what would you actually say about Krishna? Only the gopis and mothers came. The gopas, the cowherd boys, stayed back to protect the cows. To protect the cows, to protect Yasoda and Nanda. So, in Krishna book here, can someone read this paragraph starting with the real elevation of human life?
The real elevation of human life rests on knowledge and renunciation. As stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service rendered to Krishna automatically produces perfect knowledge and renunciation. The family members of the Yadu dynasty and the cowherds of the Vrindavana had their minds fixed on Krishna. That is the symptom of perfect knowledge. And because their minds were always engaged in Krishna, they were automatically freed from all material activities. This stage of life is called Yukta Vairagya, as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. Knowledge and renunciation, therefore, do not mean dry speculation and renunciation of activities. Rather, one must start speaking and acting only in relationship with Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Very good. Yukta Vairagya. That Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayochita Yanyat Yasvarhyam Jnanam Sa Ahaitakam. causeless knowledge and renunciation comes from bhakti. That the whole Uddhav Gita is about all you need is bhakti. Yes, Mother Kasturika.
Thank you, Maharaj. I'm just curious, how can Mayavadis ever even participate or recite Bhagavad Saptah? Because they're so averse to the form of the Lord or qualities or pastimes. So isn't it mercy on them as well? I mean, how does Krishna allow? Because they're so offensive?
Yes, but the point is they see Krishna as a manifestation, as a material manifestation, temporary manifestation coming from Brahman. That so their approach toward Krishna is offensive, and Krishna speaks about that in Bhagavad Gita, of course, 9:11. Avajanti mamudam manusham tanam ashritam param bhavamajantam mamubhutam ashram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. And what will they achieve by study the Bhagavatam? Moga samoga karmana mogyana visheshata raksasim ashram shivam paratim moinim shritaha. Those who are thus bewildered and attracted by demonic, atheistic views, in that deluded condition their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So they will not get knowledge, they will not progress toward liberation. It's futile. What the Mayavadis think that they will get from it, that yes, maybe some principles that lead to liberation theoretically of something. I'm not sure, but yeah, what's the use if you consider it all Maya? That anyway, we can discuss that further at the end, maybe. Let's first go to the section of today. The section of today goes to verse 21. So thank you, Mother Castoria. We may come back to that. So we continue. Text 17. 16, that was a commentary, 17. Queen Kunti met her brothers and sisters and their children, and also with her parents, her brothers' wives, and Lord Mukunda. While talking with them, she forgot her sorrow. So this is going on. Still, Duryodhana is trying to kill the Pandavas. They just escaped from the house of luck. We have the purport here. Even the constant anxiety of a pure devotee, apparently, just the opposite of the impersonalist Shanti, can be an exalted manifestation of love of God, as exemplified by Srimati Kunti Devi, the aunt of Lord Krishna and the mother of the Pandavas. That's interesting. The constant anxiety of a pure devotee can be exalted manifestation of love of God. That how is this? That their spiritual anxiety is shanti for them. It's compared to the anxiety of this material world, it's peaceful anxiety. Interesting. Shanti. The materialists, they don't want to have troubles in life, and when they attain this, they call that peace. Right? But for a devotee, if there is a disturbance and the boat is soaking, then he remains peaceful. Anxiety for Krishna is spiritual anxiety. This anxiety is in connection with Krishna, and it brings one closer to Krishna. Queen Kunti said, let the calamities come, because I want to see you. When trouble comes, then we think more about Krishna. Krishna is the only one, the only I have now. We come to that point. That 18. Oh, hopefully one day we come to that point. Queen Kunti said, my dear respectful brother, I feel that my desires have been frustrated, because although you are most saintly, you forgot me during my calamities. So Queen Kunti addresses her brother Vasudeva, that she will hear in text 19. Friends and family members, even children, brothers and parents forget a dear one whom Providence no longer favors. That so Srila Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur both comment that Kunti does not blame her relatives for her suffering, that she calls them most saintly persons, and alludes here to her own bad fortune as the cause of her unhappiness. So Queen Kunti says, it's not your fault. Srila Prabhupada often talks about this. You lose your money, then the family is no longer friendly with you, and then your friends reject you. I had personal experience. I joined the Hare Krishna movement, and no interest in me anymore. Everyone rejected me, family, everyone I knew. Finished. One day on another. Just gone. You lose your money, then family is no longer friendly with you. And then your friends reject you. There is a poem, this poem of Srila Prabhupada, in which he writes, a list of names. Seeing that I am now penniless and everyone has now abandoned me, my own family, my relatives, and even my so-called friends, this situation is indeed miserable, but it simply amuses me, Srila Prabhupada says. I sit alone and laugh. Interesting what Prabhupada writes here. So this is Srila Prabhupada's reaction to everyone rejecting him. In this mundane material world, who are my loved ones, Srila Prabhupada writes? Where have my affectionate father and mother now gone now? And where are all my elders and other relatives? That give me news about them now. Tell me who. All that is left is so-called family, is a list of names. So Prabhupada said it's just a list of names. That's what left. They have all passed away, all gone. A list of names. So Kunti was feeling alone, and Srila Prabhupada was feeling alone, but he was laughing. This is the material world. We know that Krishna did remember Kunti. What did Krishna do to remember Krishna when he was in Dwarka and she is in Hastinapur? He sent Akrura to find out what was going on. And she was telling Akrura everything that happened. How Dhritarashtra's sons were always planning to kill them. She was as a poor animal, a deer among several tigers, and she was praying to Krishna at that time. She was saying, "Oh my dear Krishna, you are the supreme mystic, the real well-wisher of the universe, Govinda. At this time you are far away from me. I pray to surrender unto your lotus feet. I am grief-stricken with my 5 fatherless sons. I fully understand that besides your lotus feet there is no shelter or protector. Your lotus feet can give shelter to all aggrieved souls, because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can be saved from the clutches of repeated birth and death by your mercy only. My dear Krishna, you are the Supreme Pure One. I can simply offer my respectful obeisance to you. Accept me as your fully surrendered devotee. We find that in many prayers of devotees they say, I'm your surrendered soul. Lord Ram says that if everyone says that, then immediately I will give them full protection. And the kings, when they were in the prison of Jarasandha, also said to Krishna, we are now your surrendered devotees, please liberate us. When you pray to Krishna, it is good to say, I'm your surrendered devotee. Please use me as your instrument. That interesting reflections, text 20. This is the reply of Vasudeva. Shri Vasudeva said, Dear sister, please do not be angry with us. We are only ordinary men, playthings of fate. Indeed, whether a person acts on his own or is forced by others, is always under the Supreme Lord's control. 21. Harassed by Kamsa, we all fled in various directions, but by the grace of Providence, we have now finally been able to return to our homes, my dear sister. It's interesting how they talk of Providence. But actually, Providence is Krishna. Krishna killed Kamsa. And then they were able to return to their homes. The gopis, they will bring up their point later. And Krishna will say, it is providence, it is fate. He brings people together and separates them. They will reply, the gopis, yes. Yes, we know it's providence, but we know who providence is, they say to Krishna. It's you, that the Supreme Lord. And because also Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj, when he made a plan, he would say, if Krishna willing. So Vasudeva said, we were in jail. What could we do? That we just got out a few years ago. Of course, Krishna did not forget Kunti. He did send Akrura, and later on, when the Pandavas were going in exile, he would always be with them, whenever they needed his help. So this is the section of today till verse 21. So any reflections, comments? No.
I thought it was interesting that Kunti Devi, she's kind of sharing her tale of woe with Vasudeva and saying it's all providence. And then Vasudeva responds by also talking about all the difficulties that he endured, with Kamsa, which was not less than what Kunti suffered, he also suffered so much.
Yeah.
And he also says it's providence, like, what can we do? It is what it is. We just have to accept it. And they both take personal responsibility. They don't blame anybody, and they just accept that this was the Lord's will. I think it's very instructive for us.
Yeah, providence. Thank you. Understood.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Even I was thinking in the similar lines of Prabhupada Priyamataji, that how when someone is Krishna conscious, they have a place for everything. They know how the providence work and how their own karmas work. But in today's society, lack of Krishna consciousness, we just get into blame game. We just blame others and others' faults. So I was thinking that how important even to realize and appreciate what's happening in our life, we need to be Krishna conscious.
Yeah, if we are not Krishna conscious, then we see the faults in others.
Yeah, I was recently when I went to, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When I was recently, I went to Vrindavan. My family is there. My husband, my two daughters. My daughters are grown up, and I'm here in America. They're here in Vrindavan, and the situation, the circumstances under which it happened was almost inconceivable. It was just like I was literally like brought here, and anyways, then they were blaming. They were kind of criticizing me. My husband was criticizing our spiritual master a lot about because he was the one who told me to come here. They were blaming him that he had done a wrong thing and wasn't a good guru. Anyways, so and then they stopped talking to me. They totally like cut me off for a few years. So recently I went back and I just showed up, and then eventually I got a chance to sit down and talk with them, and I explained this happened and this happened and this is why I went this and this is why this happened. And then when I explained everything clearly for them, just very objectively, then my husband said it was Krishna. Because you could see how it was just totally Krishna. And then when he understood that it wasn't my fault, I was just literally being moved. And it wasn't, he stopped blaming our guru, and he just saw that this is where Krishna wanted me to be, and this is how Krishna wanted our family situation to be, and everything's okay. We're all in the position where we feel stronger to serve Krishna, and that's desirable. It's not a problem. It's a good thing. So it was just really nice to come to that conclusion, and it reopened our relationship and cut out a lot of offensive feelings and resentfulness.
That's a nice sharing. Many times it doesn't end like that, but I'm sure during these years you had felt some anxiety, right? How was your anxiety during that year?
Yeah, a lot of emotion and anxiety.
I must say, when Srila Prabhupada's prayers, when we read it, that he was laughing. So he was laughing. But yes, I must say now, I'm not laughing, but I'm quite detached about what happened in the past. It's all gone. But Prabhupada was left laughing. He understood the futility of all these material relationships. It's great to realize that. Pavitra Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask this. When Krishna appeared, according to the astrology, everything was perfect. So I'm wondering, why should there be eclipse when Krishna is around?
Of course, that was the Rohini constellation at this appearance, which is very auspicious. But this Rohini constellation lasts only a few weeks or days, and then another comes. In definition, there is nothing auspicious in this material world. You can see, if you know a little astrology, always upheaval, always enmity between the planets and so on, and that. But this Sohini constellation, let us say, it's the best you can have in this material world, and all the planets were aligned, auspicious, that as auspicious as it can be in the material world. That does not mean that the constellation was spiritual. It's still the material world. But yes, that's the Rohini constellation, most auspicious. That because I'm looking at, I know the basis of astrology, and I'm looking every day at the constellation, how things are moving. And yes, we are moving from one material anxiety to another variety of material anxiety, and that's not happening. That's the only thing that's going on in this material world. A variety. The rasa of the anxiety becomes different day after day, but we have to get out of here. Even Rohini constellation, which is the most auspicious in this material world. That's what I can say, Pavitra Prabhu. Any other thoughts? Someone? Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Sister Rani, maybe you have more addition.
Yeah.
No, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So then we continue tomorrow with the next part, verses 22 till 38. So tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday, I think we will have the same time. Only in the weekend it's not possible for me on this time. But we continue tomorrow with the next section. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Recording stopped.